There are so many different ways to document your life. You can do it through photographs, you can do it through video, you can do it through writing. No matter which one you personally use, there is only one that has been around for thousands of years, and that is the good old pen and paper. Pocket notebooks and journals have been around for hundreds of years, being used by influential people and occupations of all kinds. If you are a creative entrepreneur or artist, I believe carrying a pocket notebook is absolutely essential for capturing your best ideas. Here are a few of my favorite ways to use pocket notebooks and bigger journals to aid in your creative process. What's up? My name is Eric. Thank you so much for being here. Today, I'm going to be talking about my physical notebook workflow and my stationary notebook setup that I use to document ideas, to document my life, and just to journal to find clarity. Since this video is about physical notebooks, I of course found it fitting to write down the notes for this video in my pocket notebook here. So I'm going to open this up and we're going to get right to it. All right. So the first thing on the list is we're going to be talking about pocket notebooks themselves. This is my pocket notebook, little leather cover that I use. This is from Welsh Mountain, super sick company that I would recommend checking out. I do have 10% off their products in the description down below. So we're going to start with the Field Notes pocket notebook here. And with this, I love to capture any and all ideas that come to mind with this pocket notebook here. I've found that the most convenient way to use these pocket notebooks is to keep it with you as much as you possibly can, or to have multiple of them around the house, for example, whether you have one in your office, in your bedroom, next to your bed, if you have a dream journal, for example, or in just different areas of the house that you know you're going to have one handy when you need it. Another great way to do this that a lot of people recommend is Post-it notes. You kind of see the typical creative person with Post-it notes all over their house from different things or different ideas that they have. So that is another way to do it, or you can just use a pocket notebook for that instead. The reason I'm talking about pocket notebooks first is because they are just best for mobility and for capturing ideas on the go. Last week, I released a video about my digital documentation workflow, which is basically just how I capture ideas with my phone, and then I expand upon those ideas through longer form writing on either an iPad or a laptop. And so basically this week's video is just a physical or a stationary version of that video and that workflow. If you are a creative person or any type of artist, it's necessary that you document the ideas that you have throughout the day. One way to do this is by using your phone to capture any of the ideas that come to mind, or you can go the analog and stationary route, which is using a pocket notebook. I've been using pocket notebooks since 2016 or 2017, but the most common way that I've used these pocket notebooks throughout the years is just to capture anything that comes to mind. This could be an idea, it could be an observation, it could be a quote, it could be a doodle, it could be a design, it could be anything really that comes to your mind that you want to store in a safe place. My favorite thing about these notebooks is that they're so fun to look back on because you can look back on them if you've been using them for years. You can look at one from 5 years ago, for example, and just see the things that were going on in your head, the ideas that you were having. For example, earlier this year, I found some of the very first pocket notebooks that I ever used, and I had some kind of drawings and layouts of the blog that I wanted to create at the time for camera gear and just talking about life and writing. And it was so cool to look back on these ideas that I had and see how they have evolved over the years and now come to fruition through this YouTube channel and through the newsletter that I come out with each week. You can subscribe to my newsletter called the Stoke Seminar in the description down below. I truly do believe that if it's not written down, it's not going to happen. So if you have a dream or if you have a goal or if you have a vision, write it down in a physical place and that thing will come to fruition. Once I have an idea written down in my pocket notebook, I sometimes transfer that idea into a bigger notebook that I will talk about here in a minute, but that's not always the case. Most of the time that I write an idea down in a pocket notebook, it either stays in the pocket notebook or it gets transferred into something like my iPad or a laptop where I end up expanding upon it through a longer writing session. Most of the time, it doesn't make sense for me to transfer the ideas from my pocket notebook into a bigger journal just because that's not really the workflow that I use. Obviously, a lot of the things that I create end up becoming digital videos or newsletters that I send through my email. So it doesn't really make sense to expand upon them in a paper place. Research shows that using pen and paper for writing down your ideas is better for both learning and memory. So that is one thing to keep in mind when you're trying to decide if you want to capture your ideas with a digital version or a paper version. There's definitely something to be said about the physical act of writing something down, and that is why I love physical notebooks so much. Of course, this also means that pocket notebooks and notebooks in general have been used for millennia for different occupations, different influential people, and it's very clear that the effects of them are impactful. No matter who you are or what you do for work, having a pocket notebook handy is extremely useful. I believe they are especially useful for artists and creatives who constantly have different things and different ideas and different visions that they're munching on and need to put those down in a physical place. The beauty is that you don't have to have a specific branded notebook in order to make this happen. You can buy a 97-cent notebook from Walmart. You can buy just some blank paper. You can buy a sketchbook. You can find what works for you. And I would just encourage you to use whatever you have at your disposal to write down some ideas. If you do want to use these super cool Field Notes pocket notebooks, I do have 10% off in the description down below. I also have a few different videos where I talk about the different ways that I use pocket notebooks, so make sure to check out some of my other videos if you're interested. So beyond the pocket notebook, I recently started using an A5 size journal, which is basically just a little bit bigger journal that is useful for different things. The one that I personally use is also from Welsh Mountain. This is their leather cover, just the same idea, but for the A5 size journal. And so this is the first time I've been using it, but it is also super handy. For the A5 journal, hold on, let me get my notes out here real quick. The main things that I use the A5 journal for is journaling, longer form writing, and bigger sketches or drawings. Whenever I journal in a notebook like this, I usually just am documenting life events or things that happened or whatever I'm doing that specific day. This size notebook is also great for doing a gratitude journal, so you can write down 3 things that you're grateful for that day and then expand upon one of them through a paragraph of writing. And this really just rewires your brain to think about the good things rather than always be focusing on the negative ones. Also, with the bigger notebook, it just gives you more room to draw or doodle. So one thing that I've been recently doing in this notebook specifically is I am creating a new web homepage for my website. So I'm just reworking my homepage. And so I started off with just kind of writing a rough outline of what that would look like, kind of section by section, filling in the blanks with some copy, some different ideas that I have. And this notebook is perfect for that because doing that in the pocket notebook just would have been too tight. The main reason that I bought this size notebook and the leather cover for it was so that I could always have something at my desk to write down any notes. I really do believe that this is an awesome size journal for that reason. If you're looking for a notebook to have at your desk or in your office, I think this is a great size to go for. It's easy enough to pull up a digital note, but whenever you want to write something down with pen and paper, this is my go-to thing for it. The other workflow that I've been loving recently is to journal for 1 page worth in this notebook, and then I'll go on to a longer writing session on my iPad or laptop. I think journaling is just a really good primer to start your day. Just gets the ideas flowing in your head. Again, it just makes you grateful for certain things when you write about them. And then it also just gets the words flowing that then translate into other things that I'm creating. From my experience, I also believe journaling is the best way to find clarity in your life and future decision making. And so that is why I've created the Content Clarity Crash Course, which is 8 days of emails and journal prompts to help you find clarity in your life. It's completely free, and I'll have a link down below in the description if you'd like to sign up. And then finally, this size notebook is just more practical for some people if you do not like the small size of a pocket notebook, for example. Here's what they look like side by side. So you have the A5 and then you have the pocket notebook. And so pretty significant difference in size between the two. And so if you're just simply looking for more room in a notebook, I think this is a great option to go for. So that is the workflow that I've been using. I have the field notes for an unorganized catch-all for any ideas that I have. And then I have the A5 journal for longer form writing, daily journaling, documenting my life, and then bigger drawings or sketches. No matter what type of notebook you have or you use, all of it is great. All of it is going to be helpful. It doesn't have to be anything specific. Just grab a pen, grab some piece of paper, and yeah, you're set. That's all you really need. I hope this video gives you some ideas on how to use pen and paper and integrate it into your personal workflow. Again, I think this is an amazing route, amazing system, amazing workflow for creatives and artists to document their ideas and get them on paper so that they can be shared with the world. Also, it's worth mentioning that Field Notes recently sent me this bigger notebook, which is not quite the size of an A5. So this is a pocket notebook. This is the newer Field Notes notebook. And then here is the Field Notes versus the just normal A5 journal. So kind of similar in size. I'm stoked to start using this one. Haven't used it quite yet, but I'll be talking about that in another video, I'm sure. Wow, a lot of notebooks going on here.